All right, it is 7 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get this show on the road. My name is Sam Jack. I'm the Adult Services Librarian at Newton Public Library in Newton, Kansas. And I'm so happy to have with us this evening for one of our Kansas author talks, Bill Bush from Halstead, right? Halstead.
Yes.
Yes. Before we get into the meat of the program this evening, I also have to put in a few plugs for stuff that's coming up at the library and through the library. We've got two more Zoom programs, online programs just like this, coming up in the month of January. A week from today, Tuesday, January 18th, we will have Professor Landry Brewer of Southwestern Oklahoma State University giving an online talk about Cold War Kansas. And just like this, you can join on Zoom or you can watch that on Facebook Live, and we'll also record it for later viewing. I'm really excited about that one. I know that there's all kinds of cool stuff around Kansas that is sort of left over from the Cold War, missile silos and such. So it'll be cool to learn about that, and also lots of other great Cold War stuff. And then a week again after that, on Tuesday, January 25th, is our fourth Tuesday photography. We took a break for the holiday season, and now we're back for 2022 with that monthly photography series / club that we sponsor at the library. Our guest presenter will be Carrie Conover. Carrie lives in Wichita, and I think it was a couple of years ago now, but that's what he's talking about, is a photo project that he did called Close to Home, where he took photos within a 1 mile radius of his house, which is in East Wichita, I guess kind of near the Crown Uptown Theater, that area, I think. And I've seen the photos, they're really cool. And he's actually gotten quite a bit of attention for this project, including a piece in the Washington Post. So that will be one you don't want to miss. We've got lots more stuff scheduled after that, as well as our book clubs and other stuff for teens and kids. You can find out about that on our website, newtonplks.org. And that's probably enough library announcements. So let's turn to Bill. Yeah, Bill, I guess, do you want to introduce yourself and just get into this? I will say some of you might have questions or comments. Those of you on Zoom can use the Q&A button or the chat and to type your questions whenever, and I'll jump in and if it seems appropriate, or else we'll save them for the end for Q&A time. And those of you on Facebook can also type your questions or comments in the chat, and I've got you here on my phone, so we can do it that way. So yeah, take it away, Bill.
All right, thank you, Sam. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Yeah, like you said, my name is Bill Bush. I live in Halstead, Kansas. I've been here since the end of 08, I think, 2008. Grew up in Yates Center, Kansas, Southeast. Did not have writing aspirations back in the day. Did some ministry and got into accounting. That's what I did for about 20 years. But I grew up watching my mom write. She loved to write. She'd write mostly by hand because we didn't have computers back then. She did have a typewriter while I was growing up, so she did a lot of that. Always fascinated by the process, but never really thought about doing it myself. Except that I always thought, one day I'll write a book. In the way that, we all have these things we think in our heads we'll do one day. And if we were honest, we may or may not do them, and may not intend to do them, but we think we will one day. And just as long as it's down in the future, we'll do that. Writing was that way for me for most of my life, actually until about 2010. I went through a Bible study that was designed through Life Church, and it's called Kazon. And the word Kazon is Hebrew, means vision. And the purpose of the study is kind of just try to discover what God's vision is for your life. And as I went through the study, I think it was 6 weeks, one of the things that stuck out to me through it was that that God wanted to use, that I had a writing ability and God wanted to use that, which was strange because I wasn't doing any writing. But there was something deep in me that wanted to come out, I think, even back then. So I did what I thought natural. I tried to journal a little bit. I tried to start a blog, and I wrote some devotionals, and my daughter and I started writing a book, a fantasy story. And I don't know, I didn't know what I was doing and just kind of lost interest. I was really busy with work and raising two kids and whatnot, and just kind of dropped it um, after a few months, and um, just lost focus, didn't know what I was doing. So I just kind of let it go. And it really sat that way until 2013. Um, in April, I saw an advertisement in the Harvey County Independent newspaper for someone to write a column. My kids had just gotten a dog, a cute little toy poodle that was still a puppy. Even full grown, she ended up at 8 pounds. So she was smaller than that at the time. But anyway, I just had this, we had kind of joked about, what does it mean if if you leave for a week, is it like 7 weeks to the dog? Did she miss, that kind of thing. And so we kind of joked about that. So I wrote a whole column about that, sent it in, and they liked it, ran it in the paper, and invited me to keep writing. And so I started writing a column, not at that time, not every week, but several times, usually a month, and just kind of got my juices flowing, and was able to get my thoughts out, and I enjoyed that process. And that's kind of after a couple of months of that, I decided, you know what, this is the time. I've wanted to write a book forever. I've got the interest, I got the motivation, and I'm going to do it. And so that summer, I sat down with I started researching, I started looking online, how do you write a book, and reading stuff, because I didn't have a clue. I mean, my daughter and I had tried, and we kind of fizzled, and I didn't know what we were doing. And so I read a bunch of stuff and came across a website called National Novel Writing Month, which talks about writing a book, 50,000 word novel in 30 days. And I thought, well, I can focus for 30 days. I can do that. And so I started reading about that, and how they did it, and got on their website and all that. But I didn't know what I wanted to write. I didn't have any ideas. So my son at the time was 11 years old. And I sat him down. I said, Blake, I need an idea. I'm trying to write a story. Help me come up with something. And so he was all eager, and we just sat and brainstormed and came up with this story about a 12-year-old boy who gets kidnapped by aliens, and he's got to help save the planet in order to get back. And his cousin and best friend see it, and no one believes them. And so this just whole thing, and there's dragons at this new planet, the alien, it's this whole deal, whole creative deal. And of course, the main character was kind of fashioned after my son, because that's, it kind of came out of his mind. And so I made notes and got ready, and November 1st came, and I did it. I pretty much didn't do anything else other than work and my kids and write for that month. And at the end of November, I had a 60,000 word novel. Thought, okay, in a few months, I'll just finish, clean it up and publish it, and we'll rock and roll. And I found out there was some good stuff, but it was a pretty bad story at that point. It needed a lot of work. It took me 3.5 years to really get it cleaned up and readable. But I had the bug. I figured out I could do it, and I wanted to keep doing it. And Blake and I enjoyed doing it so much. And because he didn't write with me, but every time I'd get stuck, I'd go, "Hey Blake, this is where I'm at in the story. What should happen next?" He'd throw out something, and I'd rock and roll with it. And so we decided we'll keep the series going. We thought of a second story of what might happen after that, and so I wrote on that, and I kept doing the writing for the paper and that kind of thing. But for the next 3 years, the fiction writing was kind of hit and miss. I was traveling with work and auditing and all that stuff, and so my writing time was limited. My kids were still very busy and younger, and so it was hit and miss. But I was writing. I was making progression, and then in 2016, I actually got the gift of unemployment. I spent about 5 months unemployed in between jobs, and And I decided, well, I'm going to take advantage of it. And while I job hunted, I also tried to write every day. And that's really 2016 is really kind of when my mind shift focused or changed. I'm sorry. I really learned that I enjoyed doing that every day. I enjoyed the writing. And my Aunt Carol introduced me to an online forum of writers, and I joined that and took this free class. It was a 3-week class. It's called Flash Fiction, How to Write Flash Fiction That Doesn't Suck. And flash fiction is, if you don't know, it's like a 500 to 1,000 word story. It's a complete story, but it's a real short one. And so I started writing a bunch of those. And that's when I really started, I think, started learning what I was doing, started learning about writing and getting better. And so I decided towards the end of 2016, I published a series of flash fiction stories in ebooks on Amazon, just to do it, to go through the process, to get my writings out there. And then I decided I was going to publish Vetrix, which is the first book that I'd written back in 2013. Felt that finally got cleaned up, got the story good, and so I'd started to query agents, but I decided I wanted to go ahead and publish it myself and kind of get the ball rolling. And so in April of 2017, 4 years after I started writing for the paper, I published my first book. And it came out. I started doing events. I spoke at the Newton Public Library, Halstead Public Library, so Life and Faith in Newton, some different places. I went to some Comic-Cons, started, trying to market the book, that kind of thing. And then I started also writing more regularly. Even though I went back to work, back to my accounting job, I started making writing a priority in my life. And so I did that in I published Vetrix, and then I published Earth. Let me think, that was 2017. In December of 2017, published Earth, the second book. And then the third book, Zentron, in the series, published that in 2018 sometime, I think. So I kept writing. The other thing that happened in 2016 that was kind of significant for later is that I'd grown up loving murder mysteries, cozy mystery stories. I watched Perry Mason and read Agatha Christie, the Hardy Boys, all Three Investigators, those kind of things, and loved the genre. Decided I'd try to write the book while I was unemployed. Decided I'd try to write a murder mystery, and kind of the same thing. I wrote it, but it was kind of a mess, and I learned quickly that mysteries are a lot more complex than a regular book, because there's so many details going in on, you got these red herrings and these suspects, and you kind of got to fit it all together. And so I wrote that and let it sit, and then I came back to it and let it sit over a period of a couple of years. And I didn't know if I would publish it or not at that point. In 2018, my goal, in 2016, I decided I wanted to write full time, but I knew it'd take a while. So my plan was to keep writing books, figure out how to make an income, and then when I had enough money, I could maybe get a part-time job and wean myself off of that and that kind of thing. When 2018, I really had the opportunity to take a step of faith. I was, like I said, I've been in accounting. I'm a CPA. And in 2018, I had the opportunity, a position came open at the local newspaper here in Halstead. And I mean, it was entry-level writing position. I didn't have the background in journalism or any of that stuff. But I knew that's what I wanted to do. And after praying about it for a long time, I decided that that's what I needed to do. And I did it. I quit my accounting job and I started that job. And I haven't looked back. That really propelled me, both energy-wise, because I was working less hours. I wasn't commuting. I lived a block from work, so I could walk instead of driving 45 minutes one way. It gave me a lot more time to write and to be productive, and those kind of things. And so I've really enjoyed the lifestyle, being able to write both at work and at home. Is different types of writing, obviously, but I'm doing that full time. It's a lot less stressful than doing the accounting and traveling all over the state and those kind of things. So it's been a good lifestyle change for me, but it's also really propelled me in my pursuit of getting a career going. In 2020, I had my murder mystery. I had it finished. I was starting to query agents, and I decided to give there's this empty, for those of you who aren't familiar with Halstead, there's an empty hospital in the middle of town. It was there for 100 years. They closed it in 2002, and it's been empty since. So I called the owner in New York and just said, hey, would you consider letting me have a book signing in the hospital? And the reason I did this is because my murder mystery takes place in Halstead and in the hospital. I could see the hospital from my house. I walked by it every day, and I thought, that's a perfect place for a murder mystery. And so when I wrote the story, that's where I set up the murder. And so I called the owner, and he said that'd be fine. I called the local youth group and said, hey, do you guys want to, and he just let me have the lobby area. He didn't get the whole hospital because it was, it's unfinished, it's too dangerous and stuff, which was fine. So I called the local youth group and said, hey, you guys want to run a haunted house? And so in October of 2020, they ran a haunted house the week before Halloween. And I set up out front and promoted my new book, my new murder mystery that takes place in Halstead. And we had 250, 300 people come that night to check it out. And so that was a lot of fun. And I got very good feedback on the book, on the murder mystery. It won, I should step back. It won, before I published it, it had won first place in the Zebulon contest, Pike Peaks Writers Association Zebulon contest. It won first place in the mystery thriller category. It's been reviewed by Paranormal Romance Guild. They reviewed it and gave it 4 stars, and she really liked it. And so when the second book came out, Three Blind Mice, she reviewed it and gave it 5 stars. And was just a really big fan. So it's gotten good reception, good reviews, and it's the first book that I haven't lost money on. So I'm actually breaking even, which was kind of the next goal in the whole writing deal, is to not lose money. And now I'm working on making money. So that came out in October 2020. I published book 2 in this series, which is When the Time Is Right. That's book 1 is When the Time Is Right. Book 2 is Three Blind Mice. Published it in May of 2021, last year. And then book 3, Toxic Intentions, I published last October of 2021. And I'm currently writing book 4 and kind of started book 5. So I've kind of got them both going a little bit. And I actually know what book 6 is going to be. And that's been fun, just because my daughter, Sydney, she's 23 now, lives in Louisville as a flight attendant, but she loves true crime. And so whenever I get ready to write one of my mystery stories, we have a conversation, and she brainstorms with me some possible murder methods and motives and suspects and all that stuff. So it's a fun process to go through and so forth. With the Vetric series, so that's the Cozy Mystery series. With my Vetric series, I published book 4 last April, Sevaton, and I am currently working on books 5 and 6. That will be a 7-book series when it's complete. I don't have a target date for. My goal is, I guess, 1 a year on those. So maybe book 5 this year, 6, 7. So that's kind of where I'm at. So I've published 3 books last year. I expect to do the same this year. And we'll just see how it goes with time and those kind of things. But I've got a good start. I've had some unique fun opportunities doing Comic Cons and stuff. You meet a lot of interesting people. I've been to the UFO festival in Roswell, New Mexico, several times. My dad, my sister, brother live down there, and so I always go to stay with them and do the festival and do really good. I've added a T-shirt. I'm going to tilt real quick. Added a T-shirt. This says "What If," and it kind of goes along with one of my book trailers on YouTube. If you want to check it out, talking about what if. And the idea is, what if aliens did crash in Roswell, New Mexico? But not only that, what if they survived? And what if they escaped? And that's kind of what Vetrix and Earth addresses. What happens if aliens escape? I kind of play out a whole scenario in those first 2 books of that series of, what happens if aliens are still here and getting ready to attack us from within and that kind of thing. So it's a lot of fun. And the talk's called Writing by Faith because, look at me. I have no promise of success in this journey. I've given up a career that was doing, I was doing well at and making decent money, and kind of given all that up to go do my hobby full time. And so there's no guarantee that there's success in this journey. So when I say writing, for me, that means the pursuit of developing a career in writing. And by faith is not necessarily a religious term, but it's going or trying to accomplish a large unforeseen goal. So I'm chasing this goal, this dream, and there's no guarantee that I'm going to make it. So what is faith? I've thought about this during my journey and from what I've learned. And there's 3 things I think I want to point out about what faith is from what I've learned. The first, faith is future focused, not present focused. In other words, we go through day by day doing stuff, but if that's all we're doing and we don't put any effort into shaping what our future is going to be, then our future just ends up arriving and we may or may not have much input into it. One of my favorite sayings that came out of the Kazone study I did years and years ago was, we all end up somewhere. Few of us end up somewhere on purpose. And so my goal is to shoot for, end up where I want to end up on purpose. So I'm doing things intentionally on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to get me to where I want to go. And I'm not saying we can predict or even control our future to that degree. I'm just saying that we can influence it, and sometimes tremendously. One way or another, our daily actions and our routines and our habits dictate our future destinations. And if I constantly focus on what each day demands without giving that little small period of time thoughtful consideration about what I want to accomplish, then I'm giving up the opportunity to choose my destination. The second thing that faith is believing, not seeing. I have goals that I can control. I can write, I can self-publish books, I can start a website, a blog, I can attend book signings, Comic-Con, UFO festivals, I can speak when the opportunity arrives. I can listen, I can improve my skills, reading books, listening to podcasts, going to writing groups, going to writing conferences, those kind of things. But there's also this element that I can't control. Like, I can't make people buy my books. I can't make them read them or like the books. I can't make stores, publish my books or promote them. I can't make publishers or, a company promote, or I can't make a, Hollywood studio make a movie out of Vetrix, which I think would be totally cool. But I want to write fiction full time, and I want to influence and inspire people, and I want to make a positive difference in people's lives. I may or may not attain any of those latter goals during my lifetime, but I'm okay with that, and I've got to try to be okay with that, because I've determined that even if I never make a living by writing books, I'm going to write books anyway, because I'd rather end up at the end of my life with dozens of unread books or manuscripts than not to have written and wonder what if. So the third thing I learned about faith is an action, not a feeling. I can believe all I want and I can wish it all I want, but if I don't put action behind my belief that I can be a writer, then it's simply delusion. I heard it said this one time that goals without actions are wishes. And the truth is, writing is work. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of times it's hard work. And if I only write when I feel like it or when I feel inspired, I would rarely write. Many days I don't feel like writing or feel like a writer, and many days I think my writing, stinks and is not, and I'm wasting my time. In spite of that, I make myself write anyway, because I don't want to sit idly by and miss the opportunities to choose where my final destination lands. Do I want to wake up one day and realize I missed opportunities? No, I've already done that enough in my life. 10 years ago plus, I realized that all of a sudden I'm closer to the end of my life than I am at the beginning. And that really did a shift in my thinking about what I want to do with the rest of my life. And so I've really been trying to do everything I can to pursue this with as much energy and passion as I can. I regularly, everybody's different in the writing process. I'm a spreadsheet guy. I was an accountant for a long time, so I got real good at spreadsheets and I enjoy them. So I make spreadsheets and I make yearly goals and I break those down into monthly goals. I make weekly goals, and then a lot of times I'll even do daily goals depending on what my weekly and monthly goals are. And then I track those in a spreadsheet so that I know I'm making the progress that I want, or at least, and it helps because sometimes I feel like I haven't. I mean, there were times, a few weeks ago, I felt like I didn't do anything last year, and went back and looked. It's like, oh yeah, I published 3 books, and I wrote this other one that's not published yet, and we just need, I don't know why, but we need those constant reminders that we are getting to where we want to be. So faith means taking steps today to get me to where I want to be tomorrow. So what are some of the steps that I think are crucial for my future success? One, I've made writing a priority. I carve time out in my daily schedule to write. When I don't feel like it, I sit my butt in the chair and I write. Even if I don't know what to write, I'll sit there until I can figure it out, or I'll just start writing until something comes. So whether you're, if you're watching, whether your passion or hobby or goal is writing or something else, I challenge you to think of one thing in your schedule you can give up that would give you more time to do that. Years ago, I canceled my dish service, and that gave me one less distraction. And I've done that kind of thing many times over. Whenever I feel like there's too many distractions, I think of how I could change my schedule so that I would have more writing time. That's why I changed jobs, to give myself more writing time, and that's just done wonders for my progress. And the second thing I tell myself to do is trust the process. I have goals that I know are going to take years to accomplish. I know I'm not a great writer yet. I hope I'm a good writer, and I think I'm getting better. I'm not where I want to be, and I'm not, but I also know I'm not where I'm going to be. And so whenever I doubt, like I said, I look back, I look at the accomplishments, and it kind of motivates me to keep going and to keep moving forward. And the third one is believe in myself. And honestly, this is the hardest one, because most days I'm not convinced I can become a great writer. But I also believe that if anyone will work hard enough toward their desired goals, they can reach it. So then I have these two conflicting beliefs that I have to say, okay, they both can't be true. I need to focus on which one I think is true. And so I focus on trying to work hard and doing what I can in spite of how I feel or in spite of what I believe. And I think a lot of times my writing process is like, the average golfer. I like to golf. I don't do much of it anymore, but I used to do a lot of it. And, I'd go out and I'd hit a lot of bad shots. I'd lose some balls in the water. I'd hit some out of the rough. I made a lot of divots in the course, but I'd also hit a handful of shots that are just like, wow, if I could do that every time, that is awesome. And that was just as good as I've seen on TV, those kind of shots. And that keeps me, it keeps you coming back as a golfer. You're like, come back, so you think you can do at least one more shot like that. And so kind of the same way with writing sometimes. It's like, man, I'm not real happy with a lot of what I wrote, but I wrote this is really, really good. And this is as good as, Stephen King or whatever. And it's, and it just might be a little bit, but it's enough to keep me coming back and keep me excited and keep me motivated and focused. And so I think that helps a lot of time. I may not be where I want to be, but if I continue to write, I won't be where I was. I will improve. I will accumulate writings. I will achieve my goals. And many days I don't believe in myself, but I believe in my journey, and I have faith in the process, and I trust that God's leading me. And so I'm going to keep on keeping on and working hard at doing what I'm doing. And one of my challenges is I have all these ideas of stories. Which ones do you work on? Which ones do you write? And sometimes that just stumps me. I don't know what I need to do to make this into a career. Do I need to focus more on marketing or writing or blogging or, events like this? What is it? I don't have an answer. And so I just try to keep doing a little of everything, hoping that I continue to learn and improve and get better and meet people and network, and just hope that trust the process and hope that I'll figure it out as I go along. And so it's been a fun process. I still feel like, I know I said it's 2010. So what's that? In April, it'll be 11 years since I first wrote the column for the newspaper. It doesn't feel like it's been that long. It feels like I'm just starting. But here I am, and I guess in some ways I am. And I hope I'm just getting started, at least on the career piece of it, and we'll see where it goes. But it is definitely been a journey of faith and of hope and of a lot of hard work. And so anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to share with you. And if you have questions, I'd be glad to answer them and talk about my books, my experiences, anything like that.
Yeah, well, thank you, Bill. I think it's really cool what you've done, and hearing you describe it. It's got to be kind of inspiring for other people that have had an interest in writing, and because like you say, not everybody, like, you're not going to just put pen to paper and magically you're going to be Dostoevsky or whatever, or John Grisham, famous and or a genius. It's more work than that, right?
Right.
So it's a good reminder that you just have to do it day by day and keep plugging away at it if it's your goal or your ambition. So those of you in the audience here, you can type your questions in the chat, or those of you on Zoom can use the Q&A. Also, I can turn your microphone on, those of you on Zoom. So if you'd like to turn the microphone on and talk with Bill, that would be great. Just say in the chat, turn my mic on, and I'll turn your mic on I'll enable your microphone so that you can talk. Let's see. This is kind of off topic. I've got some questions, but this is kind of off topic from what you were just talking about. But I know that you did mention that you attended the alien convention. That was last summer, the alien convention is at the area 40 area, what the number is? Roswell.
Uh-huh.
Right. And I'm just curious about that, because I read about that in the news, that so many people were going to Roswell for some reason, or I guess what was the reason that was such a big event, and then what was it like to be there? I'm just curious about that.
It goes back to 1947, in July, there was something seen in the sky, and it's been a debate ever since of whether it was a weather balloon from the Air Force Base there or alien spacecraft. And of course, both sides argue about it, have evidence either way or whatnot. But so anyway, a lot of people believe it was aliens that crashed there, and the government covered it up. And so they started, I don't know when the festival itself started. I lived in Roswell from 95 to 97. And in the summer of 1997, they had the 50th anniversary of the crash, and I was there for that. I mean, and seriously, Oprah Winfrey came to town. Will Smith, when Men in Black came out, he went to the mall and they did a special pre-screening of the movie there. I mean, there were people from all over, and I don't know, 30,000 people or whatnot came into the town. So it was quite an event, and it's been going on ever since then. I started going back in 2017 because when I wrote Vetrix, when we started talking about writing an alien story, because I'd lived there, it was natural to kind of set my main character there to get kidnapped from Roswell. And because I was familiar with the town and the story and all that. And so I kind of center it around that event, or the knowledge of that event in Roswell. And of course, that's one reason no one believes them. They're just making it up because aliens are kind of a thing in Roswell and whatnot. But as it turns out, they end up finding out the truth behind it and exposing all that. So it kind of made for a fun setting. But yeah, I've been to the UFO festival 5 years, I guess 5 years ago, 5 years, but I missed last year because of COVID. They didn't have it. So 4 years now. And yeah, it's a fun event. There's I've met people all over the states and even the world that come to that thing. And they have lectures and all kinds of events. It's a 3-day stuff going on, and it's a lot of fun. Last year I got interviewed by a lady who's a reporter out of New York, but she reports for a German website. So I had to have someone translate. She included me in her story, but I had someone translate it so I knew what she said about me. So that was fun. You just meet all kinds of people, and it's interesting. And then yet some really true believers telling you, always stop and tell me their stories and stuff too, which is kind of fun to listen to.
Yeah. Okay, so this is an annual thing. I think I remember reading something where they're like, somebody was saying it online. It's like, go to the government area on a certain day and something's going to happen. Do you remember that? I'm vague on the details, I guess, but there was some kind of and then everybody was like, no, don't go there all together because it's a government area and they won't let you in. Or there was some kind of thing that went viral on the internet, like encouraging people to go to.
Yeah, I kind of remember that. I think it had to do with Area 52, if I remember right, but I don't remember the details.
Okay. Yeah, it's just that's not the one that's near Roswell. That's a different thing.
Yeah, that's in Nevada. So yeah, I've never been to there.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I got that mixed up a little bit, but that sounds like a lot of fun. And Mark commented, I enjoyed hearing that your family has been involved in incubating ideas for your books. Sounds like a fun family activity. I guess that kind of leads into a question, can you tell us a bit more about how your family, you said the Vetrix character was kind of based on your son. How else has your family gotten involved in being characters or helping with your writing process or inspiring you?
Yeah, my son, like I said, helped me come up with the whole Vetrix idea, and we've made the character after him. In fact, it's got a lot of characteristics of his, including his habit, I guess. My son's always kind of flipped things, like if he'll flip a pen, or he'll get a plastic thing and flip it, and he's kind of always done that. And so I wanted to, when I when we developed the character, I wanted to give him a nickname to hide his identity, so that the aliens didn't know who he was right at first and that kind of thing. And so I nicknamed him Flipper because the character in the book flips things. And so regularly in every book, especially when he's thinking, he'll flip something while he's thinking, or he'll pace and flip something while he's thinking. But so yeah, his name's Flipper in the book, and his name in the book is Blake Brick. But he's hardly ever called Blake. It's almost always Flipper. And so yeah, he was the inspiration behind that. And I still, as I write that character, I think back to my 12-year-old son, who's now 19 or 18, 19. So he's in college. I guess he's almost 19. So anyway, I think about him as a 12-year-old, and kind of that when I think about what my character might do in this situation and those kind of things. He lost interest. He's helped me. He helped me really a lot in books 1 through 3, 4, actually. And he even did some with book 5, but he's kind of lost interest in all that. He's doing his own thing in college now, and so forth. And then, like I said, my daughter, I wrote the first murder mystery, and I was working on the second. And so I asked her, a couple of questions, and we got to talking, and that's when I really learned how much she loved true crime and that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, she's just been, it's just been a lot of fun talking with her and coming up with ideas and characters and all that stuff. And in fact, last time I was like, hey, I need to talk to you in a week or so about the next book idea. And when I called her, she had like a page full of ideas that she had written down. She was so excited to help and stuff. And so and one of the things we like to do together, in fact, last Friday, she flew into Kansas City for the night. And so I went up and had dinner with her, and we went to Barnes and Noble, and she'll walk around the store with me and pick out books for me to read that kind of are similar to my genre and stuff. And so she kind of knows what my tastes are and what I'm interested in. And so she's really good at helping me spot books that I'd be interested in and that kind of thing. So it's fun. They're older, they're adults now and whatnot, but they're still somewhat interested, at least. And I don't know if either one of them read either of my books, but they're interested in them.
That's good. That's cool. I'm a science fiction fan myself, so I'm kind of curious, like what books and authors do you like? Especially science fiction or mystery as well, since you write cozy mysteries. What are kind of your models or people that you inspire you?
Oh goodness, yeah. It's funny because you would think I read a lot of science fiction, and I don't. And I write. I mean, it is science fiction, but it's more soft science fiction. It's not real hard science fiction, if you will. And I mean, of course, years and years ago read Douglas Adams and just loved his book, his series. And I can't think of for whatever reason, the name's not coming to me of that book.
Hiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I've read that 2 or 3 times and really enjoyed that. I read mostly right now. The last year and a half, I've been kind of bouncing back and forth of reading a lot of middle grade, like horror, scary. I've read a lot of Goosebumps from Stein and Fear Street and some more modern stories, because I'm writing a horror story. It hadn't been published yet, but that's one of my projects this last year that I wrote. And it is basically done. So I wanted to read a lot of that genre, and then I've been reading a lot of cozy mystery, because that's kind of where I think my focus is as far as kind of trying to develop my career. And I think I've maybe found a niche in that area that I can run with, if you will. And so I've been reading, and like I said, I grew up reading Alfred Hitchcock, The Three Investigators, and Hardy Boys, that kind of thing. Agatha Christie, Murder, She Wrote. And I've been trying to read some different, no, I probably shouldn't say this. I've been trying to read some different cozy mystery current day, and a lot of it just has not caught me. A lot of it, I don't know, they're just centered around food or wine or animals, or I don't know. It's just not hitting me for the most part. Um, I did find one actually. I think the author is Copperman, E.J. Copperman, I think, and it's actually a paranormal uh, cozy mystery series, and I actually surprised myself by liking it. Um, and so I'm reading through that, and I'm reading through the other. I'm trying to think of the other author that Lauren Elliott, I think. It's more of it's cozy mystery. It kind of got a little more romance in it than I would care for. But I'm reading both of those complete series because I'm thinking about how do I end my series. Like I said, I've got ideas through book 6. I, theoretically could go, dozens of books, I guess, but it doesn't make sense to do that. I think at some point I'm going to have to break it off and either spin off another series or just cut it and do a new series, that kind of thing. So I'm trying to get a feel for how other writers do series, and when they will get an idea of when might be a good time for me to finish and wrap it up and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of where I'm at with that. I've always enjoyed Alfred Hitchcock, and so I like writing a lot of twists. And some of my stuff, I like writing some dark, uh, mysterious stuff. And so that's why I did the middle grade horror story, I think, and so forth. A lot of my short flash fiction is more of, I don't know, dark and mysterious, that kind of thing. The cozy mysteries are light and all that stuff.
Yeah. Are you pretty much committed to the self-publishing route, or I mean, because I know that like the genre presses that publish a lot of those cozies and even middle grade horror stuff like that,
Mhm.
from what I've learned from other author talks and stuff, it's a whole process to create a product that fits into their pipeline and exactly what they're looking for a lot of the time.
It is, from my understanding, the traditional publishers can be very narrow on what they're looking for, and you've got to hit just the right agent at the right time and all of that stuff. No, I'm not committed, because I mean, ultimately, I'd love to be a hybrid author. Uh, like I said, I started with the other books and decided to go self-publish. I've got 3 books that this year that are basically done, that I've written, that I'm going to query agents for this next year and see if I can get one of them to land. One's the middle grade horror story. I've got a paranormal thriller. That's a story from the viewpoint of the ghost and their journey in life, if you will, and I guess similar their interactions with humans and other ghosts and those kind of things. And then I've got a Christian inspirational story that I've written, that I think that one could be a series. But so all 3 of those are, like I said, pretty close to done, and I'm going to try to shop them because I'd like to be and honestly, the main reason I'd like to do the hybrid area is just because marketing is not my strength. I don't have the background and knowledge, I don't even really have interest in it, except that I know I've got to do it to get to where I want to go. But if I could find someone to come alongside and kind of help give me some direction in that, and could do that through a traditional publisher, I mean, that would be awesome. And I would jump at that opportunity. So we'll see where that goes. That is one of my goals this year, is to start shopping those 3 books to agents and see what happens.
Yeah, well, good luck with that. And like you said, I know that you'll you know, the writers face a lot of rejection. I know I've seen the people on Twitter, they post they save all their rejection letters and make a big stack and then post it on Twitter. It's kind of like a brag almost about how much they got rejected, So that's
Yeah, that's true. And I've met a lot, I've got to meet a lot of different authors on many levels. And the ones that, their overnight success, they've been at it 10, 15 years, 20 years, plugging away. And it appears to everyone else they're an overnight success, but it isn't that way. Everyone gets a ton of, it's just part of the course.
Well, I read a science fiction series. You might like it actually. It probably sounds like it's kind of a whimsical element to it. It's called the Murderbot Diaries. Have you heard of this?
The name's familiar.
And anyway, it's been super popular lately, especially with the library crowd, I think. And the author of it, I looked her up, and I thought that Murderbot Diaries was the first thing she ever did, but actually, because it just made a huge splash. But actually, I think she's like 55 or 60, and she'd been writing fantasy novels for like 20 years. I mean, they were out there in the world, but they didn't have that kind of impact on the. I mean, they were not anywhere. So it's like, yeah, it seemed like Murderbot Diaries just happened overnight, but no, there was a lot of time she spent, I'm sure writing stuff that she enjoyed writing, but not getting anywhere near the recognition and the money. Of course, there's always that.
Right.
That came her way with this series that really caught on with people. So it's just interesting. I did want to ask, National Novel Writing Month. I was interested to hear you took part in that. Maybe you could tell our viewers, because I thought about doing something tied in with that at the library sometime. Maybe could you kind of tell people? Is the idea is that like you try to write like 1,000 words a day or something like that during the month of November?
Yeah, it's 1,667 words a day for 30 days will get you 50,000 words in a month. And so that's the goal. And of course, they've got a website that'll track that. You enter your words each day and it'll kind of track all that. And they've got forums. You can meet other people on there and read stuff to encourage and all that. And the first couple of years I did it, I got on their website, National Novel Writing Month, and interacted quite a bit. Now I've got other outlets, people I talk to, authors I talk to that I do the journey with and so forth. But it's just a way, because a lot of authors, what we tend to do when we write, we tend to edit as we go. And so, you write a sentence and you think, well, that needs to be said differently or whatnot. And you kind of just get out of the rhythm of the story. And so the idea, I think that's helpful with this, and one of the reasons I enjoy doing it is because it forces me to turn my editor mode off and just write and let the creative piece in me just come to the top and flow out, if you will. And so I'm just engulfed in the story and writing, because I got to keep writing. I got to get these words. And so I'm just focused on writing. It doesn't matter if I spell words wrong and I I can't think of the right word or whatever. I just got to keep going and get the words out, and you can come back and fix all that. But it's a really good exercise. It's not the only way to write books, but it's definitely one. And I enjoy, and that's what I enjoy about it. And if you're stuck and you want to write a book and you've never done it, I think it's a good way to start. You can just dive in and go. And even if you don't get 50, if you only get 30,000 words, hey, that's 30,000 more than you started with. So,
yeah, it seems like a great way to beat, writer's block, is to have this permission to just write. I mean, don't worry, even if you forget the main character's name and call him something different for the next chapter, it doesn't matter, just keep going. So that's really cool. So let's see, you've got a website, billbushauthor.com, right?
Yes.
And then that has links to your books. Looks like they're on Amazon as ebooks as well as print books, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So any place else, or that people can find your books if they'd like to buy them or learn more?
Yeah, the ebooks are on places like barnesandnoble.com and those kind of websites. Bill Bush Author on Facebook. I've got a Facebook page if you want to follow and keep up with stuff that way. You go to my website, billbushauthor.com. I've got a newsletter that I'm semi-consistent with sending out. I'm trying to get better. But you can sign up for that and keep up to date with what I'm doing. I do have some book trailers on YouTube. If you look up Bill Bush Author on YouTube, I think I got 6 book trailers out there, so you can see a little bit about what the books. Oh, I will say too, on my website, I've got some stories, some short stories and that kind of thing, but I've also got the first chapter of each book in the Vetric series. So if you want to read the first chapter to get an idea of what the story's about, see what my writing style is, that kind of thing, you can check it out that way too before you order.
Cool. Great. Well, thanks again for being with us. I really enjoyed this, Bill, and we'll have to have you back again sometime to talk. I mean, I guess you said you published 3, but since the last time we had you here for a talk, you published 3 or 4 books. Is that right? I think it was before. So that's pretty impressive. And then
yeah,
once you publish 3 or 4 more, we can have you back.
Yeah, well, maybe next year then, because I'll publish 3 this year, I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to come back. Appreciate the opportunity and appreciate everyone who's joined us tonight.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot, everyone. I'll go ahead and sign us off. All right. Have a good evening, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thanks.